could Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i be positioning himself to run for the country's presidency? Or is he just creating a support base that will eventually give him bargaining power as he transitions into politics? These are some of the questions that have emerged after about 10 MPs from the region endorsed him for the country's top job.
It is now becoming a familiar tune at almost all meetings in Abagusi land, where politicians are the chief guests. The politicians from the region are, however, dancing to a new tune, calling its people to coalesce around one of their own. It is an initiative put together and driven by MPs from the region, led by Kitutu Chache MP Richard Onyonka, who recently jumped ship from the DP Ruto bandwagon. Their strategy is to sell the Matiang'i candidacy and get the people on board the idea.
Tuko karibu tuende na CS mpaka tuchukue kiti ya uraisi. Mko tayari Nyamira?
Oria baheshimiwa bonse n'abarayi bonse kuruga gusi tobwatyo mheshimiwa Matiang'i unago totebia egarego chimotuga abo na kitu tukanyore kero kende kene mo wacha tunyore keria kene kabisa.
Hiyo safari umeanza enyewe, hata sisi tumekuja kusikia ya kwamba there are whispers and good whispers. These whispers tunataka kusema Mungu atusaidie tuende kabisa.
Matiang'i was put at the heart of President Kenyatta's executive following the radical reorganization of his administration and the establishment of a new hierarchy of authority. His frequent visits to the South Nyanza counties of Kisii and Nyamira have also endeared him to the public, as he often carries the president's transformational message and bags of goodies. There are those, however, who see his numerous trips to the region as a way of galvanizing support from his backyard ahead of the 2022 elections.
Siba minto, onye totagete go succeed ye binto to karabia magendero sei to gaiga. Tobugata namo 20p, na ende to sikabara yaba na ende to basabere.
Currently, Matiang'i enjoys the support of a number of MPs from his backyard, but not everyone is on board. South Mogirango MP Silvana Susoro has declared unwavering support for Deputy President William Ruto. Matiang'i's bulldozing and almost brazen demeanor has earned him praise and criticism in equal measure. He has often feuded with the Deputy President as tough wars intensify. Conservative figures place the Kisii community at about 2 million people. Kennedy Murevi, NTV.
Of course, we'll be remiss if we don't hear from some of our panelists on this as well. And the Jubilee Party politics this morning. We shall be also turning our focus on the composition of SGR and what is on the front page of the Daily Nation this morning as well, much later in the course of the program. But let's just hear and introduce also our panelists if you're joining us this morning. We have with us Herman Manyora, who is a lecturer at the University of Nairobi and also a resident of our resident analyst here on NTV. We do have with us Okongo Mogini, who is a senator for Nyamira. We have also Samuel Pugisu, who is a senator for West Pokot, and Jeremiah Kiuni, who is a member of parliament for Ndaragwa. Eagerly waiting also to be joined by Alice Ome much later in the course of the program. But let's just begin with you, Herman, on this particular front. But let's begin with Okongo Mogini, because he was there, yes. It seems that Okongo Mogini also is endorsing Matiang'i, Dr. Matiang'i, as a next kingpin or the leader of the Abagusi. What is that occasion all about?
Yes, morning, Debal. I think first we should understand that that was a function to raise funds for Gesiaga High School. Actually, that was in my village. That's where I come from. And it was not a meeting to endorse Matiang'i's candidature. But I think what the leadership that was present was saying was acknowledging the good track record of Dr. Matiang'i. And they were also trying to echo the president's call that this country needs to be united. We need to reduce negative ethnic-based politics. And in response, Dr. Matiang'i was urging the Kisii people to rally behind the leaders that they have chosen so that they can push forward the president's agenda. I did not hear at any one minute, any one given time, Dr. Matiang'i declaring his candidature for presidency. Having said that, though, I think if this was a functioning, democracy, like what I'm seeing in the US, where
it's not really declaring the candidature for presidency, but being acknowledged as a community, now he is actually rising as a, as a creme de la creme
which is a good thing. And I think you didn't listen to the whole clip of Onyonka. I think Onyonka was trying to tell the people that let's have a break from the past, where we choose people who will not come on board with some tainted record on corruption. And I think if we were to be sincere to ourselves, if this country wants to be transformed, we should look at the leadership that we currently have and say, who is untainted, who can push forward the agenda that we are trying to rally Kenyans behind, which is fighting corruption, uniting this country, and stopping these negative politics to push this country forward. And I don't think there's nothing wrong. If you go back to where you come from and your people acknowledge the good job you have done, I don't think there's anything wrong in that debate. And I think the Onyonkas and the other leaders were saying, look, if the right time comes and you want to seek for an higher seat, we assure you that we as a community will be rallying behind you, we'll support you. I think that's proper. There's nothing wrong with that. But I didn't hear Dr. Matiang'i declare that I'm going to run for presidency. But yes, I think he's done a good job. I'm sure even Manyora here will acknowledge that he's one of the best performing ministers that we have under the Uhuru regime. He has left a very good track record. He has proved that he's a performer. Yeah.
All right, but of course, from other quarters, we have, innuendos, so to speak. And of course, we don't ride on innuendos, but sometimes this is a bellwether of where we're going as a country as well. That in the next political formation, that we'll have maybe position of a prime minister, and he's touted, or he will be tapped as one of the person who will actually take that particular position of a prime minister. I don't know if you're privy to this. Yeah.
Dibal, nobody owns the seat of prime minister. I mean, if we are expanding the executive, if we want to create a position of prime minister, and if the Kenyan people say that Matiang'i fits the bill, why not? I mean, the 42 tribes we have in this country, each one of us should have a right to vie for the top seat, become a prime minister or anything. We shouldn't say that that's a preserve of given communities. I think what we should be asking is Matiang'i capable of holding that position? Has he proved himself? Can he bring some leadership that's a bit different from what we have seen in the past? If it's yes, and if the Kenyan people say they are amending the constitution to create the position of prime minister, and he's offered that position, why not go for it? Yeah.
Why not go for it? With the current, of course, shake-up in the cabinet, the reshuffle that we just had, and of course him being touted to be a super cabinet secretary as well. Is that also positioning Kenyans for the likelihood of what we're talking about, him being the next prime minister? And of course, those formations, we have them, people talking, just with undercurrents.
The bar is something about power. Power, usually you have in some way, at least to go for it. It rarely moves towards people. So Matiang'i has positioned himself and he has found himself at the center of power. That you must give it to him. And the reason is he's far better than the rest of his colleagues. Now, whether that means he's good is another story. Real, because when you compare Matiang'i with his colleagues, you can just see Monica Juma there and Magoha there, maybe, and that's it. There's nobody else. That tells a lot about the kind of leadership we have. So because he's quite visible, a lot of stories are beginning to emerge. I am also beginning to get convinced. I rarely get it wrong, although some people think I do. I am also beginning to get convinced Matiang'i will go somewhere in this country. I am also looking at what the president said, that he will surprise us. Supposing that surprise is Matiang'i, You know, again, Matiang'i has worked his way up in such a way, he resonates with the people. People see him as a person who can do something. You know, remember the days of when he was in ICT, the day he wrestled with digital changes, a bit of acting minister in lands and, you know, that kind of stuff. But more particular in the Minister of Education with the exams, you know, and even with the interior, the kind of things he's been able to do. So it's highly visible. And in a country where you can rarely get such a kind of people, you know, when Michuki was around, he looked like he was the only minister in government. So Matiang'i is that kind of person, highly visible. And in a transition stage like we are in today, eyes will look at him, ears will be open because of his visibility. And give it to him, he has earned it. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the next government, whichever way it comes, I mean in terms of whether we change our constitution or not, Matiang'i will feature much more prominently than he is featuring now.
Right, but of course some of the leaders there from the Gusii land, they think Matiang'i is a squeaky clean person.
If you
From
have
your own
your
assessment,
son,
do you
if
think
you
he's
have your-
actually
the-
squeaky? Yes.
He's the most prominent son of Gusii. Definitely will support him. Even those who don't like him will find themselves supporting him. If you don't, you'll be the only stranger there. Omogen here may not like him, but because if he said otherwise,
he has no
he may
choice.
not step in Kisii town.
But from your own assessment, do you think he's squeaky clean?
Pardon?
Do you think he's squeaky clean as far as issues to do with corruption is concerned, pilfering from the government is concerned?
I don't know about Matiang'i in terms of that line. What I know that in this country, everybody has something on him. So if we go that route, then we will not even get a leader. We should go and borrow one from the United States. We can ask Obama on his retirement to come and rule this country. Because we are all, none of us is clean.
So no one
the
is qualified.
environment is so polluted in this country. It is not possible for a person to stand up and say, like Raila says, maybe he's the only one, at mimi ni nyeupe kama pamba. It is not possible. That is all over. Smoke is all over.
Jeremiah Kioni is nyeupe kama pamba. Let's just hear from Jeremiah Kioni this morning. Eh? Antu nyeupe kama pamba.
Good morning, Dibara.
Morning to you.
Do you want us to talk about Pamba or Matiang'i?
Matiang'i is pamba. So.
And I still think the Matiang'i thing is best discussed by Mugeni and Onyonka, because you haven't quite understood what it is from. For those of us who come from a distance from Kisii, we need, you know, political power is more than just serving in a ministry in 2 terms. And it is different from, there's a huge difference between being appointed and being elected. The difference comes when you go looking for votes yourself, because you have to convince people who are voting why you want the vote. It is not just because you performed in one place or another. But he's performing, agreed. And certainly, where he goes next has a lot to do with who is next as the president of this republic. I don't like banking on positions that have not been created. Because when you now start cutting a position to size so that it fits a specific person, you end up with unnecessary pressure to Kenyans. Create this position because this person must get this position or perish. But I think it is important. I don't agree that there are people who have not been tainted with corruption in the country. They are there, and many. It is possible to get people who you cannot have anything against, and that may surprise many, but I believe there is. And we should encourage others, and especially the young people in schools, that it is possible to rise to a position of authority like that position of Matiang'i without having gone through corruption, without having compromised yourself. And I think that is where the hope for this country is.
All right, let's hear from Senator Pogisio. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, and morning to our viewers today. The whole thing about Mheshimiwa Matiang'i, Matiang'i is the one who succeeded me in the Ministry of Information. Yes. When I left, he has. You give it to him. Give it to him. He has cut an image for himself, an image that shows a toughness and an anti-corruption image, and also that he has been able to speak when in a subdued cabinet, which doesn't speak, you know, people, you don't even know, many people will not even know what the other cabinet ministers are saying because they don't speak. It's a different kind of cabinet. And in that kind of cabinet, Matiang'i is the only one you can see who is engaging, engaging politicians, engaging everybody. And that has given him an image of a tough guy who can actually sort out things. Now, I'm not so sure that that is enough for the Kisii people to declare that he is good for president. But by the time you move from a non-politician who has moved, you know, directly as a professional from the university straight to cabinet, and then from cabinet he's moved so many times to handle tough situations and assignments within cabinet. You then know that he has managed to convince the powers that is a guy who can do the job. So I think the other thing which we must note is that a person in the position of the Secretary for Interior, Cabinet Secretary for Interior, is a very, very senior position in any cabinet. It's a very responsible, has a lot of resources and so on. And very good for politicians. In fact, if they come from your neighborhood, it's very good because he has the powers to do things for you. He can move things within your county. And I think maybe that's why he quickly rises to the top of the echelons, the top echelon of the leadership of Kisii automatically, and finds himself there. So who else would the Kisiis look up to? I mean, in a situation like this. So he obviously has reason to rank where you cannot ignore him, and not only in Kisii, and if you ask other people, they think he's tough, is the one who can handle situations. So I believe that is a bright future in politics if he wants to join politics, but also in the public service if he wants to remain where he is.